I've been doing my worm breeding now for about 3 months, and I've got 3 of these trays with eggs and baby worms in now. So this was my original tray, and I'll show you these in a minute. The worms are all hatched and they're sort of a good couple of inches now, fattening up nicely, really coming on strong. These have just started hatching about a week ago, and these are just eggs, haven't started hatching yet. And then at this end I've got my two buckets that I've stuck with. On this one I actually did cocoa coir, just thought I'd give that a go, but I'm actually, what's in the buckets now, I've actually gone back to multi-purpose compost. I found it didn't go through the sieve quite so easily. It was a bit more fibrous, so I find either sort of sieved homemade or multi-purpose compost that you buy, it just sieves a lot better, creates a finer bedding for them. So it's all gone really well. Nothing to report sort of bad. It's all gone good. Everything seems to be quite healthy. I did have 4 breeder bins at one point. I went down to 2 just because I needed the buckets for something that wasn't that important, and I've just been putting 2 buckets per container. So I've been sticking at 2 buckets. It's just an easier amount for me to sort of manage, really. It's only to top up my outdoor bed, and also in the spring I'll redo it, use them to add to my flow through bin that I'm going to redesign through the winter. But anyway, I'll bring you in and I'll give you a close-up shot, show you sort of the stages that the worms are at now. And because it's the 1st of October today, I'm actually going to move my worm breeding home. I've already had quite a hard frost down here, and I've had 2 or 3 nights that have been down to about 2 degrees. So I'm going to take it home, just because I think my garage at home, it's not heated, but it is within the house. So it's part of the extension. The bedroom goes over the top and the kitchen goes behind it. So it's within sort of the side of the house. And it's it never really gets below probably, even midwinter when it's freezing cold. With the garage door, you get a bit of cold air blowing, but it never really goes below 10 C. And even this time of year, it's autumn and it's quite cold. It's up 15, 16. So it's just down here, I'm getting these cold nights, and I think that's just going to slow the breeding down. So it's time to take them home. So I've had to make a couple of little investments, because I know only too well when I first started keeping worms that when you mess about with them and you move them, they will sometimes try to escape. And it happened a couple of times with these breeder bins. When I put them in my big tray down there, I found a few out one following morning. So what I did is I bought a couple of clip lights that take those little E27 screw fitting bulbs. And I thought, obviously with the price of electric and everything, I want to keep the bulbs as low wattage as possible. So I actually found some 1 watt LED bulbs, little golf ball size bulbs. So I've got 2 clip lights, which I'm going to put over my workbench, and have the trays on the bench. And I can run 2 1 watt LEDs 24 hours a day if I want to, leave them on all the time. And it will cost under 10p a week for those 2 bulbs. Just worked out with what the prices are at the moment. So I'm fine with that. I'm going to make a lot more worms, when you look at the price of that. So 10p a week, whatever, it's fine. So I'm going to move them home. What I am going to do, so today, what I've started doing, when I first started, I was keeping the worms in the breeder bins for 3 weeks. I've actually just gone to basically on the 1st of every month, I sieve out the worms and reset them. 4 weeks, it's fine. The eggs don't start hatching until a fair few weeks later anyway. So 4 weeks, I'll just do it on the 1st of the month. It's just easier to remember. But I'm going to go from the buckets, because I'm going onto my workbench at home, and I want to keep lights above them. Obviously, having slightly shallower trays will get better light over them. So I'm going to go from 2 buckets. I'm going to put both those buckets, so 200 worms, into one of these trays. I've got some new ones. I'll just grab and show you the size of them. So I grabbed the last 3 that the garden centre had, because I know I'm going to need them. So they are, does it say the size on them? It doesn't actually say, but they're probably 50 centimetres by about 60, something like that, and probably about 12 centimetres deep. And they're £10 each, £9.99 each. So I've got 6 of those now, but so I'm going to put my 2 breeder bins into one of those and also use them to then rear the baby worms on. But anyway, I'll bring you in and give you a closer view of the babies. So what I've found is they actually love it when you put a little bit of weight on there. So I put these, I mean, it holds the bag down anyway, but having these extra bits of wood on there, the worms love it. They like to be under something, it seems. And I've also put a bit of newspaper underneath. So a few worms are up on top. You can see the sort of size of them. Look, they're a good 2 inches long, even though they're not particularly fat at the moment. There's a few on top of the paper, and if I fold the paper back, so I put a few slices of apple in here, just put it in one day to see if they like that. But I'm basically feeding them a homemade worm food that I gave my recipe on one of my other videos, which is basically just oats and chicken layers pellets and a little bit of mineral rock and a little bit of eggshell, and I'll just blend it up. But there's a lot of worms in here. You know, I don't know whether to weigh them or just to put them into the bed, whether to sort of see how many worms I'm getting if I let them get full size. I'm just going to keep them here for now. I'm not going to take these worms home. I'm just taking the breeders home, and some empty trays to carry it on through the winter. But these ones, because they're getting a fair size now, I will put these out in the outdoor bed, I should imagine. But I may just keep them in this tray for a couple more weeks. It's just interesting. It's the first time I've done it. Obviously, it's interesting to watch the sort of life cycle. So that's those worms. That's my first tray. So they're it's probably been a couple of months, probably 6 weeks since they hatched. And then I'll just show you the ones that are just hatching really now in this middle tray. So these are tiny. I always have to look on the back of this bag because you get the odd one or two, but if it focuses, so there you go. See my finger, that's the sort of size they are. These have been hatching this last week. And there's a few up on top of the paper. And then these are on the same worm food. So again, it's my fingers. So you get the sort of scale. And again, they're just sort of littered all up through. I'm not going to rake through with my fingers because they're so small I could damage them potentially. But yeah, so it's all going well. You know, it's a good way. It doesn't take a lot of room. It's a good way of making sure you're keeping your stocks up. I'll just have a quick look in here. This is where I've got the cocoa coir. I don't think there's anything started to hatch yet. You can still see the eggs dotted about through here. They're still yellow, some of them. Whether it's because it's cold, they do go to a more darker red when they're ready to hatch. But just keeping them moist anyway. I may well take this tray home to make it hatch a bit better, perhaps because it's getting these cold nights. It might be delaying the hatching. Again, I'm not really sure. I'm no expert. I'm kind of learning as I'm going. So that's the baby worms so far. Like I say, I'm going to leave these 2 trays here. We're October now. Hopefully, I'm hoping I can insulate the outdoor bed. I think I'll put those into the outdoor bed because obviously in my garage I've got limited room. The good thing with these trays is that because they're rectangle, I can actually stack them that way, then that way, then that way. So I can actually stack them on my bench at home if I need to. But I still have limited space, so I'm probably going to put these 2 trays out in the outdoor bed. That's the only thing I've got going at the moment. I'm going to redo my flow through as a project in the winter. I may take that tray of eggs home, like I say, just to sort of bring it on. And then midwinter I can kind of see what the weather's doing and decide whether I want to keep them in the garage until spring or whether to risk bringing them and putting them out in the outdoor bed. But anyway, I'll finish the video once I've got to sift these bins out now and start them again, and then I'll go home and I'll show you how I'm going to do them with the lights on my bench in the garage. So I brought the worms home, just the breeders for now. I might bring the last 2 trays of eggs home tomorrow. But what I did notice when I sifted the breeders out just a few minutes ago, definitely less eggs than the other 3 trays that I've done. Definitely. So those cold nights, this last sort of, what's it been, the last couple of weeks have been quite chilly. Every night has been fairly chilly, quite a lot below 10°C every evening. So it's definitely impacted on the eggs I got in these 2 buckets I've just sieved out. I could just visually see there was probably, I should imagine there's half the amount. So definitely I probably should have brought them home last month. But again, you learn as you go, don't you? So next year I'll probably bring them home, you know, from end of August or whatever, September, you know, depending. But as you can see anyway, I haven't got a lot of room here. My garage is rammed full of tools and mowers and God knows what. If I need to, I can get a bit of extra space on the floor. But like I say, I can stack the trays anyway. But yeah, so I'm not going to use the plastic bag like I did down the farm. That was just for keeping birds and things off, really. I'm just going to leave it, that's about 4 or 5 thicknesses of newspaper, keep it moist, so that'll give them something nice to eat under. And it actually doesn't quite come to the edge of the tray. So obviously any worms thinking about coming out, they're going to see the light and not want to come out. So this should work quite well. I could, in theory, probably just get away with 1 light here. But obviously once I've got trays of babies too, I could then use 2. Now these don't look particularly bright. Like I say, they're only 1 watt. But actually I'll just turn the light out. And they're actually fine. You know, I mean, that's plenty enough light. They're going to sense the light when they come up anyway, and just stay in the trays hopefully. And that's 2 watts, so that's less than 10 pence. It's about 9 pence, I think, a week. So yeah, that should be fine. We'll see. Anyway, I will. If it isn't fine, I'll let you know in another video. But it should be fine. So yeah, for now, what I did do as well, because I sieved some compost out, the same amount I would do in 2 buckets. I sieved into here and it wasn't quite enough. It looked a bit shallow, so I sieved enough for like a 3rd bucket into here. So what I've done is I've added another 100 worms plus the 2 buckets. There's 300 worms now in this tray. What I did is I took the 100 worms, because it was just easier, from the worms, the older baby worms that I've got. So they're not going to be old enough for breeding just yet. But give them a few more weeks, you know, maybe around Christmas time at the latest, hopefully. But by then they should be breeding. So that would then be the equivalent of 3 of the buckets I was using in this tray. I think I'll probably just stick with 1 tray. Like I say, it's just really for topping up my bins. It's not like I'm starting a worm business or anything. So just sticking with 1 tray, 300 worms. You know, that should, if I do it year round, which I will, I might even keep it actually in the garage, just thinking about it. I could just do this all year round in the garage and not even bother doing it down the farm. Just take the baby worms in the trays down the farm in the summer. Yeah, but we'll see. So I'm going to keep these here, and I will maybe do another video sort of midwinter to show you how it's going in here. But just to let you know the temperatures, I've got a little hydrometer thing here, moisture meter with centigrade on. That's 18.5. 18.5 C in here. So that's a much better temperature than down the farm at the present time. So hopefully this will work well. But anyway, hope you're enjoying these videos, people, and I hope you're enjoying the worm videos. I've got a good playlist of worm videos now. So if you're liking the channel, please remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take it easy.